Hello, 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 everybody. Happy Friday, I guess. Thank you so much for being here, for pressing play, for, deciding that you want a little company in whatever task you're completing in that IKEA shelf that you're installing. I don't know. Fill in the blank. Thank you for doing all the things. Welcome to another show. We got so much to talk about. The news is happening too fast. Slow down, please. Thank you. Thank you. Um, Thanks so much for everyone who's been here and for everyone, of course, who supports this show in any way that you do, whether you're watching, whether you're sharing, whether you're giving 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatnot, or if you're Faye Molly over on Twitch who resubscribed with Prime for 6 months strong. Feels like January 77th today. When will 2028 be here? I mean, seriously. I'm so done with the news. What a terrible week, guys. Worst week. Worst week. Guys, week two of Donald Trump feels like he got it's like we just picked up where we left off in November or January of 2021, although that was the coup. But remember before the coup? Remember in the dog days, I just October of 2020 was real dark. Do you remember that place where you were like, I still haven't really gone outside and seen people. I don't know whether there's a vaccine. Donald Trump is telling me to inject bleach. People are not wearing masks. They're politicizing it. Oh my God, we have no nation. And I guess Joe Biden, but maybe not Joe Biden. Is he going to do it? I don't know. That feeling of no adults in the room. They don't care about governing. They don't care about anything. It's that, but times 100. It's that plus the Heritage Foundation straight up writing policy right now. I believe it was either Klippenstein or no, Molly White, who's been on the show before, who reports on crypto, was saying that whoever is putting out some of these policy papers in their EOs doesn't know how to scrub sort of like the metadata of where they originated from, and they straight up originate from Heritage Foundation goals. That they are copy pasting, print, send it out. Anything the Heritage Foundation wants, all the Christian nationalists with wish lists, all of obviously the gutting of all federal programs, the freezing, although TBD, we're not really sure. They freezing everything. I guess February 3rd is the cutoff. It is wild. Meanwhile, Democrats are deciding who's going to lead the DNC, and the rest of us are deciding whether or not we're ever going to trust Democrats again. So the rest of us are like, anyone else? Can we start another party now? Thank you. Something else? Bernie's out here, sort of, tweeting that he's like, look, I've never received any kinds of big corporate donations. And you're like, I love it, Bernie. I love it. Can you start a party? Can you make a break? Can you do more than tout the shit that you were touting back in 2020? You know what I mean? So we, not trying to hate, but these are desperate times, and we don't have the fight that we are used to seeing. Definitely not from the media. CBS today is ostensibly, I guess, the reporting is that they are settling a lawsuit. Remember when the Trump team thought that the CBS interview with Kamala Harris was edited to make her look good, and they sued CBS over it? Yeah. So CBS wants to settle that lawsuit. These are very dire effing times. So thank you so much for being here. I just want to caveat and sort of name that as of late, I have been drawn into a little bit of drama. Not of my own, not that I haven't stirred the drama. I've participated in the drama. In fact, I blame this audience for drama because this audience pointed out something that I said back in late December while I was talking with Jank on this show about how I thought there would be detention camps, and we all know they're going to be detention camps, and that he thought I was crazy to say that. and that I sounded crazy. And then someone in the audience, bless you, said, remember when he said you were crazy and now they want to open up Guantanamo to house like a bunch of undocumented immigrants who have literally done nothing wrong? Again, the reports we're seeing are that half of the undocumented immigrants have committed no crime other than being here, again, without papers. And so, you know, your girl stirred a little bit of drama, had to throw a little edit on that and put that on the social media. But here's what I want to say. I don't want to do drama shit. And I know all you hogs, all you YouTube hogs feed off the drama. You just rub yourself to it and it's gross. And I see you and I know you. The podcast listeners, the Substack listeners, you guys are wholesome. You're like, nuh-uh, I come here for the deep dives. I come here for the analysis. And look, I want to separate the two of you out. You got the YouTube hogs, you little piss pigs who love drama, and the rest of you, I'm obviously joking, but the point is this: I really don't want to do drama. I really don't want to get into that spiral. I respect that it's an angle. I don't like to do that. So I'm not going to sit here and do a bunch of more videos, you know, talking about, you know, people I used to respect. However, I will, on the issues, explain how I feel. And if that runs counter to the people that you've heard who are or once were ostensibly progressives or leftists, you take that for what it is. That's all. Just put that right there. I'm not looking for drama, but I will put that right there. That on my job, what I want to do, what I want to build with this show, and I feel like I've been building, is a show that is not about just going for clicks. It really is more than that. So I've been very concerned because, you know, last night on my show on Zateo, my new show called America Unhinged with Wajahat Ali and myself, we talked all about, you know, the horrific collision between a Blackhawk helicopter and an American Airlines flight, killing 68 people, and how terrifying not only it is that our leader, that this happened, but that our leader, Donald Trump, cannot muster a single shred of empathy, to say nothing of the fact that his actions very much contributed to the moment that we are in and to the accident that happened. The reports are in that there was only one person who was doing the job of two people in air traffic control. So we talked about the freeze on hiring for air traffic controllers. We talked about the dismissal, the firing of the entire Aviation Safety Advisory Committee. All of this happened in a week, guys. We weren't talking about it because Elon Musk was saluting Heil Hitler. The obviously preemptive resignation of the head of the FAA, and then the dismissal again of the head of the TSA. So everything that governs our transit and aviation regulatory bodies have been compromised. The fact that there were positions like chief of the FAA that were not filled when this happened, and the fact that in 20 years, we haven't come nearly close to seeing a collision like this, just period. We've had a very good record in terms of aviation safety. Boeing aside, corporate greed and Boeing aside, let's be real about the 767 MAX or whatever the hell that one was. So lo and behold, Donald Trump is blaming, of course, because he has no shame, DEI. And I just, you know, I'm summing this up for y'all. You've seen the clips. We don't need to see his voice anymore. But I did just want to, you know, before I get into like my thoughts, I just want to talk about at least honor, because who will honor the people who died needlessly because of a lack of care, because of a lack of regulation, because of lack of staffing? So CNN is reporting some of the people who passed. 67 people aboard the American Airlines regional jet and the U.S. Army Black helicopter collided midair. Obviously, no survivors. The details of the disturbing catastrophe emerge and additional bodies are identified. The full weight and impact of the lives lost is growing heavier. Here are some of the victims of the tragedy so far. A flight attendant living, quote, one of her dreams. Denasia Elder was killed in Wednesday's crash. She was a mother of 2. She was one of the people killed in Wednesday's midair collision. The Association of Flight Attendants Communication Workers of America announced on Facebook post she was based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and had been flying since last year. Her brother-in-law, Brandon Payne, said she was a great wife, a great parent, and a great friend. She was very bright and very smart. She was an entrepreneur. The flight attendant thing was kind of one of her dreams to do. She wanted to do. Payne said she wouldn't want y'all to do the same thing she did. Chase your dreams. She would want y'all to do the same thing. Chase your dreams no matter what. Don't let nothing scare you. Then there were soldiers. And Denasia is a Black woman. I just want to point that out because for some reason it matters right now in this hell world we live in. Ryan O'Hara, there was 3 soldiers on board the Blackhawk military helicopter. He's 28 from Georgia. He died in the crash. Oh, and Chief Warrant Officer Andrew Lloyd Eves, 39. Eves was the instructor pilot on board and had about 1,000 flight hours, according to Army official Jonathan Kozoil. Third soldier's name is not being released at the request of their family. I don't blame them. But it's known that they were co-piloting the Blackhawk and had about 500 flight hours, according to the U.S. Army. O'Hara is being remembered as a service member with one of the finest, most disciplined, committed trainers. On and on. I've flown dozen flights with Ryan O'Hara, trying to tap into his expertise on hoist operation, one of his, I guess, colleagues said. Here's Lindsay Fields. She was a biology teacher, the president-elect of the National Association of Biology Teachers. The association reported her death in a statement that she was traveling to Washington to represent the NABT community and advocate for excellence in life science education. Remember, this was a plane that was landing, right? First Officer Sam Lilly and Captain Jonathan Campos. Sam Lilly appears to be a white guy. I don't know. John Campos, I don't know. His last name could be Latino. Again, doesn't matter, except when evil people say that it does. Sam Lilly, a young fiancé awaiting his fall wedding, was piloting the American Airlines flight that was minutes away from a safe landing when the collision with the Army helicopter plunged both aircrafts and everyone into the Potomac. I was so proud when Sam became a pilot, Lily's father said. Now it hurts so bad, I can't even cry myself to sleep. I know I'll see him again, but my heart is breaking. This is so messed up. This is so messed up. I didn't even know I was gonna get emotional, but it's just like really just like the terror and then the needlessness of these deaths, you know? Jonathan Campos, the captain of American Airlines, was also killed, according to a fellow pilot who knew Campos personally. The colleague said that Campos became a captain for the airline in 2022. He was an amazing person, his family member said. Ian Epstein, this is another flight attendant, white guy, 53, was a flight attendant on the American Airlines flight involved in the deadly collision. My brother was a wonderful man, says his sister. He loved his life. He loved traveling. He loved his job. He loved his family. And he will be sorely missed. And then obviously there were young figure skaters. There was a doctor, Hussein Raza. She was a consultant who traveled to Wichita on a project for a hospital. A civil rights attorney, this young woman named Kia Duggins. She was attorney at the Civil Rights Corps in Washington. 6 U.S. figure skating athletes, coaches, and family members. This is awful. These are like literally children. 3 young skaters, youth skaters, Sean Kay and Angela Yang, and their coach Alexander Kiraznov, all from Delaware, died in the crash. Like, how old are these kids? What are they, like 10? 12? No, 12 years old. Olivia Turr from Maryland was also killed in the collision and being as remembered as an exceptional youth figure skater who inspired her peers. It's just it's awful. It's awful, right? And someone's about to get her period. Jesus. No, and you know, the fact that we are now stuck in a doom loop spiral And some of these people actually were in, I talked about it last night, were in Wajah Ali, my co-host of America Unhinged, were in his kid's school district. So this could have been people we all know. This might be people we all know. So needless, senseless, needless loss of life. And it's all because, sticking it to the libs, hollowing out the government, ensuring that we can privatize every last corner of this country so every fucking Elon Musk and other oligarch can add a zero to the end of their paycheck and can buy another vacation home. That's what they died for. That's what they died for. This motherfucker did not even address any of the things that he'd done in a week to make air travel less safe. In a week to talk about the freeze on hiring, or that 100 FAA positions were not filled at the time of this collision. Instead, he has the audacity to sign an executive order that says we're no longer going to be doing any kind of equal opportunity hiring. We are going to rescind all of the things that we did in the past, even though at no point in the 20 years that we've had equal opportunity hiring and DEI policies, diversity, equity, inclusion policies, had anything like this happened. I could say a very tasteless joke right now, but I won't. I'll save that for the stage. Everyone should catch me in Pasadena on February 19th. New World Disorder. It's going to be a great show at the Ice House. So I want to just go into a couple of aspects of the DEI nonsense. And the reason I think it's important is because I'm seeing a fair amount of, let's be real, mostly white guys who are sort of like, well, it wasn't DEI, but DEI is bad writ large, right? And I'd like those people to shut the fuck up. So here's the thing. 67 people are dead. A Nazi-backed fascist, white nationalist, Christian nationalist president, backed by the Heritage Foundation and the 1%, are deciding that this is all about a DEI hire. This is not the time to have your nuanced conversation about DEI. I'm sorry. It's just not. Okay? It's not. Because right now, disabled people, Black people, queer people, women are being blamed for things like that while their rights are simultaneously being stripped away. While they're being suppressed from the ballot box, while they're being told to bleed out in their cars while they miscarry, while they cannot access things like a passport, as we'll talk about, if you're trans. While they can't get life-saving care if you're a pregnant woman. So, nope, we're not doing it. We're not doing it right now. We're not doing it. Okay? We're just, that's not what we're doing. So let's talk about it. CBS had a decent article about this. Trump criticized DEI and the FAA's diversity policies after a deadly plane crash. Here's what we know. Thursday's press briefing, Trump criticized his predecessor for management of the FAA and suggested without evidence the diversity initiatives are to blame for the deadly crash. I put safety first. Obama and Biden and Democrats put policy first, Trump said. The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism, Mr. Trump added. That people in those categories would be, quote, qualified for controller positions, even though the agency statement does not say that. It has been long-standing FAA policy, including before, during and after Trump's first term, to include people with disabilities in recruitment. However, there's no evidence that these initiatives have compromised air safety or had any relation to the crash Wednesday night. The cause of the collision remains under investigation. Air traffic controllers must undergo extensive training and meet rigorous standards, including physical and mental fitness tests. They cannot have a long history of mental disorder or physical conditions that could interfere with their duties, according to the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. Yeah, what are they? They're not cops. You know what I'm saying? They're not cops. Oh, Lord. Before Mr. Trump took office last week, there was a diversity and inclusion page on the FAA's website, which stated the FAA had a special emphasis in recruiting and hiring people with the list of disabilities that Trump cited. The FAA has a range of roles beyond air traffic controllers, and its website does not indicate that these hires would be eligible for air traffic controller positions. Additionally, the policy has been on the FAA's website since at least February 2013, including throughout Trump's first term. The policy page was recently removed from that website. In other words, yes, they were like, we're an inclusive entity of the government, but it didn't stipulate that if you have, a history of mental illness or whatnot, that you could be allowed to be an air traffic controller. There's other jobs there. Records show that initiatives aimed at expanding the workforce existed under President Trump's first term, including a program in 2019 that aimed to recruit and train qualified individuals with disabilities, including veterans, for careers in air traffic operations. And in fact, I'll just bring this up thanks to Josiah, who I was on his show pretty recently. Here is that order. FAA provides aviation careers to people with disabilities. April 11, 2019. Federal Aviation Administration announced today a pilot program to help people prepare with disabilities for careers in air traffic operations. They will enroll up to 20 people in the Aviation Development Department. They will train for 1 year at 10 air route traffic control centers throughout the U.S. The candidates in this program, 20 people, people, 20 people. They'll receive the same rigorous consideration in terms of aptitude, medical, and security qualifications as those individuals considered for a standard public opening for air traffic controller jobs. Participants in the program will receive up to 1 year of experience in an air route traffic control center with potential to be appointed as a temporary ATCS position at the FAA Academy. They must be a U.S. citizen. Oh, damn it. We can't blame migrants for this one. Damn it. The qualification for Schedule A direct hiring authority, meet Office of Personnel Management ATC qualification standards, pass air traffic skills assessment, no more than 30 years of age, pass no more than 30 years of age. That's interesting. They want them a little spry and young. Pass a medical security review, be proficient in English, education and a work experience, 3 years of progressively responsible work experience, or a bachelor's degree. In other words, things that people now being confirmed to Donald Trump's cabinet do not meet. 3 years of work? Ew. So, yes, there was a policy that included 20 people with disabilities, none of whom it seems were involved in this incident, none of whom we actually know still worked as air traffic controllers. But it is true that back during Obama's years, there was an executive order that he passed in 2011 to establish a coordinated government-wide initiative to promote diversity and inclusion in the federal workforce. Now, that also included the FAA, but this is basic, standard. He says, and I just want to read it because it is interesting. Because in case you're like, what even is, DEI? What is it? What does it sound like? What might it look like? What does it enable? By the authority vested in me, in order to promote the federal workplace as a model of equal opportunity, diversity, and inclusion, it's hereby ordered as follows. Our nation derives its strength from diversity of its population, from its commitment to equal opportunity for all. We're at our best when we draw on the talents of all parts of our society, and our greatest accomplishments are achieved when diverse perspectives are brought to bear to overcome our greatest challenges. In fact, data about DEI, whether or not in the corporate world or in the federal government, have borne that out. That actually it makes your workforce more effective, more efficient, and more robust, just broadly speaking. But anyway, whatever. Who am I? I don't know. Why are we having a conversation that happened in the fucking 70s? Who knows? A commitment to equal opportunity, diversity, inclusion is critical for the federal government as an employer. By law, the federal government's recruitment policies should endeavor to achieve a workforce from all segments of society. Attaining a diverse, qualified workforce is one of the cornerstones of a merit-based civil service. Merit-based, So this directive is to develop and issue a government-wide diversity and inclusion strategic plan to be updated as appropriate and at the minimum every 4 years to focus on workplace diversity, workplace inclusion, agency accountability, and leadership. The government-wide plan shall highlight comprehensive strategies for agencies to identify and remove barriers to equal employment opportunity that may exist in the federal government's recruitment, hiring, promotion, retention, professional development, training, and policy practice. What could that mean? What could that mean? What does it mean to have, a place of business or a federal government agency not have hiring practices or recruitment practices or retention or promotion practices that, support diversity and inclusion? I don't know. It could mean we don't hire pregnant people. If you're pregnant, you're going to be a leech on us. So no, it means if you're breastfeeding, we're not going to create a room for you to do so. So sorry, that's gross. You can lose your job or stay at home, or we're not going to recruit you. It means basically what happens in legacy admissions in every college in this country, right? It's who you know, who your friend is, where you went to school. So I think we all know workplaces are littered with this. So I'm just going to put it as an example, even though I love all my former colleagues at AJ Plus. AJ Plus was awesome. I worked for Al Jazeera for many years. And there was a lot of hiring from former Berkeley grads, Berkeley Journalism School grads. That was because it was people they knew, and it was just sort of a thing. Now, I'm not saying it was an incredibly diverse workforce, at least definitely racially and religious and ethnicity and all that. But everyone did go to Berkeley. You know what I'm saying? So the idea is, what about someone who went to a community college and studied journalism? What about someone who didn't go to an Ivy League school? What about someone who is working class, right? Like, all of these things are part of DEI initiatives. It is also class-based in as much as it is also, and we need to not forget it considering how much Trump went after disabled people in the last 2 days. It's about, does your workplace accommodate people in wheelchairs? Does your workplace accommodate people who have, I don't know, like I do, like chronic pain and can't sit at a desk all day? Like all this crap, right? Like these are all part of making a workforce actually inclusive. So that's one thing to say, okay, under the law, I cannot discriminate against you. Under the law, I can't say, I don't want this person for the job because they're Black, because they're a woman, right? But that's not enough. It's not enough to say, I'm just afraid of, a lawsuit coming at me, right? I mean, I don't even know if many corporations are afraid of the lawsuit. To promote this is to say, no, we're going to, and you might see it a lot in nonprofit organizations. They say, hey, we explicitly encourage people of color, women, queer people, and working class people to apply for these jobs. We explicitly, that doesn't mean they will only consider those people for the role, but they encourage them. It means that they want a diverse workplace. They want a if you're working at a nonprofit that, I don't know, is like feeding the homeless or whatever it's doing, no matter what it is, we want a workforce that, hey, maybe even reflects the kinds of issues that we're working around. And that's just nonprofits. But think about it from a corporate standpoint. Why would you hire someone at an ad agency who was a woman, or who was a Black person, or who was a queer person? Whatever you think of ad agencies, of capitalism, of hyperconsumerism, it's about being more effective. It's about money. It's about saying these people have different life experiences. They're bringing something different. Hey, they know how to capture a different market, which ultimately, let's leave aside the federal workforce. All right. The fact of the matter is that, well, no, let's put a pin in what I want to say about corporations, because there's an Axios piece that I thought was very good, that continued to sort of fact check Donald Trump on all these insane claims. Okay, so if we are to run with the assumption that, all right, under Obama's crazy executive order to get, crazy executive order, like under that order and under Trump, I don't know, he didn't know what he was signing. He just did this program for 20 disabled people. And under that order that suddenly the FAA became littered with those people, just everywhere, all over the place. Like, imagine, that's what we are led to believe in the last 48 hours, right? 24 hours, Christ. It's been, well, clearly these programs disproportionately advantaged unqualified people. And unqualified people of color, women, what's the difference? When I say woman, when I say female pilot, I immediately think unqualified pilot. When I say black general, I immediately mean unqualified general. Don't you see how that works? You say it so much, and it really just becomes the same thing in these people's minds. When you say undocumented migrants, don't you see how that's just criminal migrants? Because all migrants here without papers are in fact criminal. Don't we see how that's happened and that's borne out in the last week? Okay, so what does the data say according to Axios? Ooh, fun. Air traffic controllers and airfield operations specialists by gender and race based on 2023 population estimates. 78% male, 22% female. Looks like my YouTube stats. You know who you are. Race and ethnicity, non-Hispanic whites, 71%. Hispanic of any race, 14%. Black, 8%. American Indian or Alaska Native, 1%. Asian, 3%. Other races, 3%. 2 or more races, hello, we're gaining on you, 10%. Now, tell me with these stats that we have opened the floodgates to unqualified people just running our airspace and our landing strips, right? They're all over, all these women, mostly male, mostly white. 78% are men, 22% are women. There's probably a lot of non-binary people there too. I'm just going to say it right now. But I mean, I guess there's only 2 genders or whatever. He implicitly, and yet this is the point we all need to remember. He implicitly, what I just said, equated racial, gender, and other forms of diversity with a lower quality federal workforce. That is exactly what he did. That is exactly what he did. And that is exactly what they've been doing ever since a female fucking security guard, a Secret Service agent, put her body on the line to protect Donald Trump from a crazed Republican would-be assassin. That is what they've been doing. So of course they're going to do it in this instance. Even though, of course, the blood is on his hands. This is him wiping the blood on his hands on the backs of, what is it? Black and brown people, disabled people, queer people. That's what he's doing right now. And do not give him permission. Do not buy into this bullshit that is okay. So I just thought that was really important. And I also, look, when it comes to deregulation, we got to shout out Ken Klippenstein, who's having quite a week here. I mean, Kenny is everywhere. I really would like to reach out to him to come on the show soon. He's been getting a lot of people leaking to him. He sent a bunch of federal workers an email because right now there's literally nobody at the helm of this fucking ship. So his email just straight went through without filter to 13,000 workers. Just like straight up went through to them. It's like, what are they doing? What are they doing? But anyway, this was a very important one. It's from yesterday. Ken writes, I got this tip from an airline pilot. I'm sure some of you saw this. Hi, Ken. I'm a pilot and received this email from an airport manager about an issue that has been a growing problem for years in the Bay Area and is now growing even worse. San Carlos Airport is an airport within 10 miles of San Francisco International Airport, and it will have no air traffic controllers starting February 1st, guys. That's tomorrow. You think you're excited about leaving January? Girl, I might want to stay. The departure route for San Carlos directly overlaps the arrival path of San Francisco. San Carlos is also host to two of the area's largest flight schools. This means you now have a situation where inexperienced pilots will be departing into a highly complex airspace using their own judgment and reading of charts so as to not collide with aircraft landing at San Francisco. This happened because the airport operates off an FAA contract for staffing controllers rather than the FAA directly providing controllers, meaning it is a subcontracted, uh, it's a subcontract that the FAA has with controllers. This system has always been tenuous. It was previously not uncommon for the contractor to only provide a single controller for all the traffic. There are recordings on YouTube of the tower needing to shut down because the controller had to use the bathroom and no one else was working. Now, a new contractor has underbid the existing and decided to remove the cost of living adjustments for staff. All controllers have left, and the new contractor plans to operate the airport with no controllers. This means the pilots need to coordinate with each other instead. But small government, you know what I'm saying? Big, too many. I mean, really, the free market will deliver for everyone at the end of the day. And the free market will be the safest way to go because, everyone for themselves. I actually think that each passenger should probably have a GPS, and they decide, which, and then they get together as on the plane, and then they take a vote of which direction they should take off in and which direction they should land in, and or maybe they just do a little arm wrestle between all of them, and because at this point, why don't you just do your own research? We all do our own research, and that's really how we should do public safety in these guys. I've been disturbed, by the operation of contract towers ever since becoming a pilot. During the first Trump administration, I feared what privatization of all air traffic control would bring. After Trump posted about the ATC being at fault in last night's mid-air collision in DC, I'm concerned they will use this as a springboard to push for more private towers. I write this to you to say that this will bring more safety risks, and more people need to understand a real-life example of what chaos a contract tower can create when put in such busy and complicated airspace. Thank you for your time. Sorry to bother you with an email, but the accident last night has been a tipping point, and I don't know how else to spread awareness. There are very few heroes in this. I mean, pilots and workers and like airline attendants, flight attendants, they are a few of them. The workers are the ones. You see American Airlines CEO, he was putting out a statement which honestly, it's like anyone with half a firing brain cell could be like, "Hey, call this number if you think one of your loved ones was on the plane." You think Donald Trump did that? Did Donald Trump do that? No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He was tweeting like an angry old man on the porch, yelling at two planes. He was scoffing at a reporter's question as to whether he would visit the site and said, "Why would I want to go there? You want me to swim? You want me to swim?" That's what he said. "Do you want me to swim?" Hope you don't die, guys. Hope you don't die. And so what's really sick about this entire thing is, again, the blaming of DEI is so terrifying. And I feel like nothing crystallizes how important it is for us to understand that the so-called culture war has always been a class war, has always been a war on the poor. Okay? They are one and the same. The problem is that the Trojan horse of it all, it's the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. It's being able, to change your identification to reflect your gender identity. That's the problem. It's all we need to do is just roll back a few of these programs that have gone way too far, way too fast. Deport, 11 million, 1,200 people a day, and then all's going to be hunky-dory and fine, and we're going to be super, supportive of the working class. Bullshit. all of this is pretense to undo everyone's rights, right? Now we're still obviously living in the backlash of the civil rights movement, of the gay rights movement, of the women's rights movement. They just fucking undid Dobbs, you guys. They undid Roe v. Wade. So if you don't think it can happen to Hugh, it is. Everything is a trial balloon to say, what if you just don't have, what if you're just a peasant? What if you don't have any rights? What if it becomes nationwide illegal to organize with your workforce? What if it becomes illegal to exercise any of, we're big on parental rights, but if your parental right includes, and they're already coming for this, if it includes, talking to your children about legacies of racism, if it includes educating your students about, slavery, if it includes you referring to your students by the pronouns that they prefer, no, we're going to criminalize all of that. All of this is about taking our freedom away and stripping the government and selling it for parts and distracting us with these DEI alibis. And they're doing it, and it's just amazing. We just let's learn from this moment. Let's fight based on this moment. Don't you see? All they did over here was deregulate, fire people, hollow out the government, hand everything over to corporations. And then over here, they're saying, but it's really DEI. And the fools and the tools are buying it. They're literally doing it right now. And it's not just if you're a worker, and it's not just if you're a woman, and it's not just if you're gay. It's if you fly a plane. If you go on a plane, you're a victim. So, this is what we've been talking about on this show. This is what, Laverne Cox came on our show to talk about, the permission structure that is involved when we play into, yes, maybe DEI bad, or maybe trans people should not be able to play in sports, or I don't know, maybe there should be a limit on when a woman can seek an abortion, even though most late-term abortions only happen to save the life of said woman. Maybe we should put restrictions on all these things. All of this is a permission structure to come for everyone's rights, people. Say it again, say it a million times, understand what this is. And I just, it's just wild to me, Ken Klippenstein, what other Ken is there really? I mean, it's really Barbie and Ken, but this, Ken Klippenstein is Knuff, you know what I mean? He does need his own shirts. So he's reporting today to comply with Trump's executive order on DEI workers at NOAA. So it's what is it? The National Oceanic Atmosphere, whatever the fuck. The fucking weather people have been instructed to deactivate specific agency materials containing the following keywords: ability, acceptance, access, affirmation, aggression, allyship, androgen, asexual, belonging, bias, binary. Okay, now here's the thing. Now this does feel just kind of like a sort of like a vocab word sheet for a seventh grader, but I want you to circle, class, what words exemplify empathy and what words are referring to people of color, queer people, and women. Okay, it's a little bit of a test. And isn't it interesting that words that connote empathy are effectively lumped in with words that are reserved for, minority communities, BIPOC, women, queer people? Interesting how that works. Belonging, bias, binary, bisexual, black, culture, DEIA, ooh, yeah, of course, discrimination, diversity, EEO, empathy, empowerment, equitable, equity, ethnicity, ooh, ethnicity gone, ethnicity, fairness, gay, gender, gender dysphoria, handicap, homosexual, LGBTQ, LGBTQIA, intersex, LGBTQ, LGBTQ plus. Why is that on there twice? Pansexual, queer, transgender, transgender. Oh, just in case you don't do the hard R on transgender. Transsexual, transvestite. This is just. First of all, there actually literally is the word empathy on here. Empathy is on here, which is the first comment. Empathy is telling. A little telling. You'd have them get rid of empathy. And now I do just want to say, this is what I want to say about DEI and corporate places. DEI matters in corporations not just because they want to make money and they want to market to an audience that is like, that is diverse, because hey, black people and women also buy things. They also, contribute and stuff. And so a lot of them are just like seeing the writing on the wall. It's the writing on the fucking wall. At the same time, they're also chicken shit. And what corporations do, it's not, they don't lead. The far right and the Rogans of the world think that the corporations are the ones doing the woke, right? They're the ones who are all about inclusivity. No, no, no. They are following what has been decades of civil rights struggle, of women's rights struggle, of all the pressure that has been put on, and the lawsuits. And the, Lucy Ledbetter's, I think it's Lucy Ledbetter, suing her company after she realized she was being paid half as much as her male counterparts for decades. It's lawsuits. So then they're like, shit, we got to pay somewhat equally, but tell me, you guys all know, you've all had an experience. I've had an experience. Women often, and and I know people of color too, do not get paid the same as their male counterparts. That's why we have something called pay equity, right? We are searching for pay equity. What is it? What are the stats? At 80%, I believe, white women get 80% of a dollar to a white man's 80 whole dollar. Black women, it's something like 40%. Cut that in half. We still don't have that. Women earned 80 in 2022. The US, oh boy, this is going to make me mad. Gender pay gap in the US hasn't changed in 2 decades. This is from 2023. The gender pay gap has remained relatively stable in the United States over the past year. So, okay, these are all corporations that have likely done some DEI, decided that, okay, we'll have a nursing room for a nursing mom. We'll have an accessible workplace. We'll have an elevator. We will, allow for people with disabilities. We'll accommodate them, and it's like, yeah, man, but they're not the heroes here. Just because they roll this out doesn't mean we have to collapse what corporations do, and for that matter, what centrist Democrats do, and what real radical intersectionality is. So, what I get really prickly about is when leftists, all people that, have great takes on a lot of other things, but when some leftists will tell you, nah, they do have a point about woke. Nah, this is important to say that like DEI programs are crap. What they are doing is they're mistaking corporations and their attempts at DEI, which I support. I super support it. What I would rather do is make sure every corporation had like an actual quota, federally implement a fucking quota, would have an equal amount of women, men, people of color relative to their population in the United States on every single corporate board. All right? Every single board. Oh, and by the way, add some workers in there too. I would love that. That's what it should be. But because we don't do that in this country, because all we have in this country is affirmative action, which has now been obliterated, and we've never actually implemented any kind of quota. We never really held corporations to any kind of standard because the US government's role with corporations is hands off, hands off. So they, by their own evil, greedy will, have implemented things that are fairly good and do make a difference in people's lives. So that's my problem, is you're mistaking, Nancy Pelosi kneeling in a kente cloth for the fact that the Democratic Party have not passed the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, that they've not passed the Breathe Act, which I believe is a much scaled back version of criminal justice reform. Okay? It's not that we need to stop talking about Black people being murdered by cops. It's that the people in charge want to throw us small little bones like kneeling in a kente cloth to distract us from the fact that we want people to stop being shot by police. Like, can we understand that? The streets have got it. They know. The organizations, the grassroots groups, they know what's up. They're the ones working on this stuff. They're the ones who are intersectional. The labor unions, who are made up of Black, white, Asian, all folks. They understand this. The people doing the work understand it. It's us little fucking, again, and I include myself. It's just us flitting our little dumbass analysis out here that is a problem. You know what I mean? Armchair activists and shit like that. And I just, I want to just point out that right now, trans people are being denied passports. It just like, okay, that's happening. This is in Los Angeles. Gentle Reality on TikTok, who I don't know what their pronouns are, so I'll just say they are telling what happened after leaving a Los Angeles passport agency.
Agency after trying to acquire a new passport after mine was expired, and I've been impacted by the executive order, and they are effectively banning me from travel, though they will not call it a travel ban. They stated that they would at first give me a passport that had the male identifier on it, though I have my sex legally changed to female. And 2 states and administratively with the federal government through Social Security before as well. And after claiming that they would give me the male one, I said, any is fine as long as I'm able to travel. They came back and said that actually, this is the first we're hearing that, and we won't be able to give you that either. We won't be able to give you any passport. We have no further information. They wouldn't tell me anything. I spoke to one person who wouldn't give me any information, which led to me speaking to a supervisor. And they towed the same line where they will not call it an effective travel ban, though that is the impact where my travel plans I cannot make. They will not give me any passport with any name, gender, sex of any form. And that is the case of what we are dealing with right now in the United States. There is an effective travel ban. If you are trying to get a passport and you've had any sort of change with your gender, I've heard a lot of people saying things like, oh, it's fine if you just want to get a passport with your old gender, it's fine. That's not true. They will not give it to me. And when I asked for more answers, I only left the office under threat of arrest. They stated that they would arrest me if I asked any more questions. So I left peacefully, but I only left under threat of arrest. And it seems that I will not be able to travel outside of this country per the executive order.
That is absolutely insane. So what this person is saying is that they are female. So I'm assuming, she goes to get her passport renewed. She's had her passport, her identity changed from male to female on multiple forms of identification. They said, sorry, we can't give you a passport with the female identification. She's like, well, okay, can you just give it to me with male identification? Whatever, I don't care. And they were like, nah, you can't do that either. In fact, we're not going to reissue you a passport. And so she protested and stayed there and protested. And then eventually they said they were going to have to fucking arrest her. Like, this is what we're talking about. This kind of shit is not abstract. This is not cultural. This is not niche. This is an entire party trying to obliterate a group of people from the map. This is them trying to deny their very existence. And so it is not. They do this in so many different ways. And they're doing it, and they will be doing it to, a group that you belong to very, very soon, if you are not already in one of these groups, if your family is not under threat of deportation, if you are not a pregnant person, or you want to have an abortion, if you need meds, this is bad. This is bad. So the only thing I'll say, and here's what I'll say when it comes to DEI initiatives. Robin D.G. Kelly was on this show not so long ago. Robin D.G. Kelly is, professor. He is a Marxist. He's a black radical, really, just an incredible thinker on like liberatory politics, intersectional politics, and all that. And he said last time he was on, he was like, we all know DEI programs have never gone far enough, that they were just a stopgap. And let's just say this right now. The problem with DEI programs is that white people caught feelings. It's white people feelings. The DEI program, there's two things. It's white people feelings and the fact that they didn't go far enough. The DEI was always a please don't ask for reparations. The DEI was always a, please don't ask for, I don't know, a universal basic income or an expansion of Medicaid. DEI was always like, trying to make sure that people historically or currently wronged by this country, people who weren't allowed to own property, people who were owned as property, never actually sought reparations for that, never wanted pay equity, never wanted, all of the things entitled to you for your own human dignity. That's what DEI programs, were always a stopgap, a little bit of a small effort. But that the real answer, of course, are things like reparations, are things like back pay if you've been wronged, and are things like an expansion of these universal programs so they help everyone. But yes, that there are disproportionate assistance to people who need it most, to people who are disabled, right? To people who are trans. It doesn't mean they get more. If you're disabled, you're starting out with a little bit less. I mean, I don't want to say you're starting out, you know what I'm saying though? Like, that's what equity is. That's the point of this. But there has to be, so anyone talking about DEI from the left who's like, it's wrong, tell me about reparations. What do you think about reparations? What do you think about universal basic income? The problem is that, and this has been a good friend of mine, Simone Baptiste, who's a director. She made a very funny short film about reparations called oh God, I was in the movie and I think it's $16,000. It was satirical because it was a look at like, what if we did do reparations? And then every white person's like, well, now I can say the N-word because we did reparations. But this is the thing. It's about white people feelings. And I'll tell you a personal anecdote before we leave. A personal anecdote around this is, so I was working with National Geographic Channel and I did a really interesting piece about DNA, 23andMe, sort of like DNA discovery, and this was, what was it, 8 years ago? So that was kind of all the rage then, and it was on the up and up. And there's a professor out of Boston. Where were we? It all blends together. And she's a sociology professor, and she had been doing sort of a study with people who would find out what their DNA was. And so they come into the study with saying things. It was very funny. It was like, oh, I'm Scottish. I'm super Scottish. I know I'm super Scottish. And then they do the DNA and it's like, no, you're mostly Irish. And that's, a slight thing. I think there was a Nigerian woman who was like, I'm all Nigerian, whatever. And I think she had like, I don't know, it was like Congo or something else, or like, there was another country, or I can't remember where, but she was just like, oh, I thought I was a completely Nigerian. And so it was she was documenting people's reaction to finding out what their DNA was. You want to know what mine was? Mine was it was literally split down the middle, European and Asian. So it's like every little bit of like, there was like a little bit of English, and then it was like, yeah, but there's some Filipino. And then there'd be like a little bit of Spanish, and then it'd be like, yeah, but there's some Thai. Like that was completely like European and Asian combined. I was like, maybe there's Latin America. Nope, no. Lamentablemente. But anyway, the story is this. In waiting for their results, people were kind of sitting around, and we had to come back twice. So they take the test once, and they come back and talk about it. And multiple times, and you've probably heard this joke, maybe you've even made this joke. White people in the group said something to the effect of, well, if I have any, POC, if I am a little African, if I am a little Latino, will I get a scholarship? Maybe I can get the free ride. So, do you understand? The joke being that with affirmative action, all it takes is having a few drops of, Latino or African blood, and suddenly you get into college. And that was not made with like malicious intent, that comment, but it's so commonplace. And I think the way that my critiques of DEI come in is that the way that neoliberal capitalism relies on these pittances of programs to be a stopgap for their failures to include all people in their institutions, meaning making college accessible and affordable, if not free in this country. Same thing with, job training and whatnot. It's the idea that because you see these programs, going to people of color, that in number one, you've got feelings around this inherently means I'm being iced out, which it doesn't. But then also you're like, shit, man, is that the ticket? Like, is that the ticket? And so it inevitably and naturally pits people against one another based on race. That being said, I still think they're important programs. But do you see it within a neoliberal capitalist structure? They are still stopgap. So we can say two things at once, and that doesn't mean that on a day like today, when they're pulling bodies out of the fucking water, that you start to sound off on how DEI programs, without totally baseless, because as we just went over, they didn't apply to anything. They did not apply to the FAA in this case. That there was after the federal workers were like, hey, we should be more inclusive, there were no plane crashes. Planes did not fall from the sky. So it is about radical intersectionality, and you have to be aware and wary of the ways that your analysis could be supporting the far right. It is not grounds to work with them at all, because they're straight up denying people in this country their full personhood. And, they've been doing this. They've been doing this with Black Americans in voter suppression for decades now. Remember when they gutted the Civil Rights Act? Gutted it. It's done now. So all the voter suppression they do is A-okay. And again, when it comes to being sensitive about groups that you are not part of, it's like, I shit on the duopoly all the time. I shit on voting for Democrats all the time. And then you got to remember that Black people in the South are like a generation out of being of like Jim Crow. They're like 2 generations out of Jim Crow. So there are people who obviously alive who were not allowed to vote. So they remember this. They carry it with them, and voting is very sacred for the Black community. It is, and it should be. So let's fucking like cool it down. C. Morris, thank you for respecting the dead, quality human. I mean, the way I respect the dead isn't to say we shouldn't politicize it, because I think that's bullshit. I think you absolutely have to politicize it because there is blame to go around. But you also you place the blame where it belongs. You know what I mean? Go after when there is a mass shooting, when people get access to AR-15s, it's okay to immediately politicize it. When there is, a once in a however long hurricane. I will say this was the one instance in the wildfires where I saw people saying, blaming the fossil fuel companies, and I totally wanted that. I was like, yes, yes, yes. But in the first day, I was a little bit like, okay, I don't totally need the memes right now because like I'm evacuated and my sister-in-law lost her whole home. So like that to me was more immediate. It was like, let's like, we know, but you know what I mean? Wait on the anti-fossil fuel memes. I totally agree about climate change. That is what it is. But like, it was the one moment where I actually found myself going like, no. And maybe I'm biased, obviously, because it affected me, but we should be able to get justice for these people who died needlessly. Werner Van Elfen, thank you so much for those gifting 5 subs on YouTube. Snatch those up, snarf those up, you guys. If you were here Wednesday or if you're a patron of this show, number one, thank you. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room is where you go to support me. Something tells me I won't be on some of y'all's favorite show or former favorite show for quite a while. Just because your girl had to be spicy and she had to be petty / you made me do it. And so yeah, that does go a long way. Thank you so much in advance. Again, not trying to do drama, just trying to be honest and fucking steer us a little bit. Just even in our leftist thinking, in our progressive thinking, in our human-based thinking. Stranix, thanks for your super chat. Your love for standing your ground. Francesca, stay real. The left media is catty wampus these days. You are true to us. Yeah, man. And here's the other thing is like, I don't think it's useful for your time to just do catty stuff. I know it's like popcorn. It's like fucking candy, but it's just not useful. I think it's okay to like, say your piece and then move on. And we can like, again, I feel like I also need to get better about, if someone is like 99% of the time right and then 1% of the time says something I don't like, it's like I can forgive that. But when someone shows a pattern of obviously being reactionary, that's very different. Snack Panther, oh my God, giving out 5 community subs. Thank you over on YouTube. DJ Mission. How about we get Jenk to come on for a dish of crow? I mean, yeah, I don't think some people just will never eat it. Charlie Dinmar, thank you for the super chat. The executive order that defines kids as under age of 19 is actually worse. They're coming for all trans care and anyone who provides it too. Yes, that's the other EO that I didn't talk about today. I was about to, but what is happening is teachers will be prosecuted. Teachers will be targeted if they refer to their students as the pronouns they want to be referred to. They could be prosecuted. So, and thank you for bringing up the 19 years old. For some reason, it was like this executive order talked about being 19 and under. You're like, what? An 18-year-old is an adult. Like, what the fuck is the difference here? An 18-year-old, like, you think Matt Gaetz would be like, wait till I'm 19. Are you kidding me? I celebrate their 18th birthday with them. 19, that's an old maid. So, Yeah, this has never been about trans kids. This has been about trans people writ large. It's never been about parental rights. This has just been about gender affirming care writ large. This has never been about, you know, late term abortions. It's never been about, people who want abortions anyway. It's about people with uteruses, women writ large. You get strapped with this child whether or not you want it, and if it doesn't survive or you don't survive, I don't care. Social Darwinism, Christian nationalism, fuck off and die. It's all a permission structure. Charlie Dinmar of Leftist Mafia is my favorite at the moment. You're welcome there always. I know, now I have a Thursday show, but maybe I can join them later if I still have any juice left in me on Thursdays. Jesse Drinks, my God, thank you so much for the 5 community subs over there. And Asuru Mirai, thank you for your super chat. Trump cronies heard people chanting in our thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians, and thought we got to give that a try. All Palestinians, right? What are we now going to go after Palestine demonstrators? The breaking news of oh God, you know what? I had 2 fun stories planned for today, and I just couldn't get to them. Trump wants to use RICO to go after Palestine protesters. This is fun. I mean, it's terrible. A new executive order encouraged federal prosecutors to consider using the conspiracy against rights laws, which has been exclusively used to prosecute groups like the KKK, to go after anti-Semitism seemingly related to exclusively to Israel. That recommendation mirrored by the one made in Project Esther, like we talked about on Wednesday, actually, and the Heritage Foundation's roadmap for Trump to fight anti-Semitism, that the government used the RICO statutes originally aimed at the mafia to bring down domestic, quote, Hamas support network. Now, I have to say this is objectively worse than Biden. It is, however, what prosecutor Fani Willis, I believe it was Fani in Georgia, went after Cop City protesters under, was RICO. So remember, these centrists are not our friends. This state is not our friend. Under its current construction, it is not our friend. Robert says, should we start the Ken Klippenstein Defense Fund? I mean, definitely support his Substack. Jesse Drinks, thank you so much. Stay strong and keep doing what you're doing. Mama Brooke also gifted 5 memberships, and Meg 62 also 5 memberships. So nice of you. Tamir Shamal, thank you for maintaining your integrity at a time when too many of our leftist allies are wavering. Yeah, it's rough out there. Y'all deserve, better. We all deserve better people. You know what I'm saying? Oddly magical Brandy, thank you for humanizing the victims. I support you because you don't lose the plot. I'm disabled, trans, brown woman. My existence, not politics. Yes. Well, that's the problem, is that we are fighting for a world, oddly magical Brandy, whose name I love, in which we are not focused on your identity as a thing, because your identity is allowed to be and exist, and you have the full rights as anyone else, and you're protected from discrimination. And in fact, because you might be in a minority group, that you're supported, that you're given the extra support that you might need. That is the world we're fighting for. That's the sort of identity blind, colorblind world we're fighting for. The problem is, again, the problem is neoliberalism and the problem is fascism, and both of them can go fuck themselves. They're both bad. And we can say both things. Darko Politics, thanks for your super chat. Remember that Anna Kasparian said Project 2025 was being blown out of proportion? Good times. Was that 5 years ago? I'm so tired. Stay beautiful. Thank you. And I don't remember that, but there's a way to spin it. She'll find a way to spin it. Robert, there are no tasteless jokes, just audiences who aren't drunk enough. Yeah. Well, my tasteless joke, if you want to be here for it, was something about, like, why were there no white jihadis on the 9/11 planes? It's just a typical DEI job. Michelle Turner, thank you for becoming a member. Rage Rock for now wants to boycott eggs. I feel you. Obviously, we got a vegan over here. We know you're correct. We're all wrong. Moondragon says, I quit TYT. You and John are my ride or die now. Thank you, Moondragon. I'm not asking that of anybody. You do what you feel and what's in your heart. Grumpy Dragon, screw it, Jenk and Anna. Grumpy Dragon said it, not me. Parthenon, thank you for becoming a new member. Rachel Atwood, as always. Trump hires via pre-civil rights era casting couch. Seriously. Rachel Atwood also, Tim Kaine tried to warn us about the excess DCA traffic. Yeah, that's the other thing we didn't talk about is the amount of traffic coming in and out of so many airports, not just DCA, but so many regional airports. Rachel Atwood, yeah, city airports are dangerous even if well staffed. Yeah, I thought the Ronald Reagan Airport was also, people were like, this is generally really dangerous. This is like way too close to the city. It should probably be a lot farther out. Like there's a reason that airports are generally farther out. Send us another brother. Thank you so much for the super chat, Charlie Dinmar. Jackson, how do leftist MAGA-proof cities mutual aid and changing your city council? So working with your community, solidarity, putting up, making sure people in your community know that ICE is coming for the undocumented folks, making sure people know their rights, even workplaces that know their rights. If you do not have a warrant, you cannot enter any premises. In addition to getting your Democrats to act fucking right and act better. Jonathan Guerrero, Clana Asparagus and Guy with drinks beer with the alt-right going after you for your truth is telling. Thank you for your strength and conviction. I don't necessarily support those names, but thank you for your super chat. Tatted Reaperness, I took my membership away from over there. I know where my new membership is going. We love you. Thank you. Again, I didn't ask it, but I appreciate it. Yilva, hello, all the way from Norway. What's going on, girl? Thank you for your super sticker. That is so, so generous of you. Snack Panther, we all seem to be in a minority of descent humans. I don't know what that means. But hey, before I read some comments over on Twitch, I just wanted to say that if you missed Wednesday's episode, it was a doozy. And if you become a member, you get access to that. It was excellent. It was an hour and a half long. And at this point, I'm like, what were we even talking about? Oh, RFK Jr. We talked about that. It was glorious. We also talked about Donald Trump's visit to the LA wildfires. Well, he didn't actually visit all places where the wildfire victims were. He skipped the Black community. You know what I'm saying? So if you want a little deep dive into the LA wildfire fallout with Karen Bass and the horrible press conference that happened last Friday, a week ago, check that out. We sort of dug into that. And thank you for indulging me because I thought it was important to look into. And Holy Beer Dragon, thanks so much for giving out 5 community subs on Twitch. That's thank you, really, truly. And Aristole subscribe with Prime. And also Holy Beer resubscribe. Glad to be here. You're helping me to stay kind of sane. You know what? Being sane in an insane world is a definition of insanity or something like that. Dizzy Lizard subscribe with Prime. Jimmy Bear resubscribed 8 months strong. You're doing the best. You're the best. Keep doing what you're doing. I thought you said you're doing your best, which is also funny. Faye Molly resubscribed with the Prime. 6 months feels like January 77th. I read that in the beginning of the stream. That's because I'm losing my mind. I love y'all. We have a great show next Tuesday. Emma Viglin, little Emmy Vig is going to be on the show finally. Or she might get sick because she tends to get sick whenever she has a date with the Bitchuation Room. Somebody's avoiding a debate. Don't stay there. Don't go nowhere. I promise you. Okay, hold me to this. Wednesday, we're talking about Punxsutawney Phil again. It's my favorite. And how Denmark might attack Donald Trump in response to his Greenland posturing. Very, very exciting. And have as good of a weekend as you can. Get involved, volunteer, but also call all of your representatives. Truly, it is the least we can do. See you Tuesday.